Hey everybody, welcome back to Kat's Kitchen. I'm so glad you guys are back here with me for another episode and some more recipes. Today we're going to be doing some really easy baking. We're going to bake two different types of cookies, and the third one is a no bake cookie. So we're going to be actually using some cake mixes for two of the cookies, and then the third one is going to be a Buckeye cookie, which is a peanut butter and chocolate cookie. So, or like a ganache or something like that, a truffle, whatever it's preferred to be. Please leave me that down the description box below. I am not an avid baker. I can hold my own. However, I try to go for easy baking options whenever I can. So if that sounds like you, then hopefully this will help you. So we're gonna get started with this. My birthday is actually on the 11th, and I'm starting, which is this Sunday, and I'm preparing these for a party for Saturday. So it's Wednesday currently. So this is a good thing. What we can do is make these ahead of time, and then after they're nice and cool, when they're iced, then we can pop them in the freezer. And then the day of the party, we can pull them out, put them on a tray, and just let them come up to room temperature. So it's perfect for making ahead. Okay, so I have two cake mixes here, and I read the back of them. I'm just gonna follow the instructions for what they're calling for. One is a yellow cake mix, the one is the white. So whenever I was looking up the recipe to make the cake mix into cookies online, because you want the batter to be a little bit thicker, I'm actually going to use just 2 eggs and just the oil for starters, because we still want the mixture to hold together for us. So we're gonna start with that. And then that was our oven preheating to 350 degrees. I am going to use a hand mixer. You could probably just use a spatula or a wooden spoon if you want, but I just want it to be nice and smooth, and I don't want to have to worry about it. Then we're going to add our 2 eggs in here, and then we're going to beat this up. I do have more eggs than I probably need out, but I didn't feel like going back and forth to the refrigerator, so I'll just put away what we don't use. Okay, so we're just gonna mix this on low. I'm also gonna put in our 1/2 cup of oil. If you don't wanna use vegetable oil, you can substitute avocado oil for this. Okay, perfect. So this is the consistency that I want. I still want it to be fairly sticky, but yet holding together, holding its shape. Now to this, you can start to put in anything that you want. Say you want any nuts, chocolate chips, etc. I'm actually gonna leave, let's see, this is the yellow one. I'm gonna leave this one plain, and I'm probably gonna add some chocolate chips to our white mix. Alrighty, so what we're gonna do is just get our baking sheet prepared. I'm gonna spray our baking sheet. You can do parchment paper if you like as well. And then I'm just gonna take a cookie scoop and scoop out our dough onto the baking sheet. And then we're just gonna have to watch the time on these. Probably won't need that long to cook at all. If you like a softer cookie, I would just check them in about 5 to 7 minutes. And then once these are done cooking, we're gonna let them cool. And I have some white almond bark here. We're gonna actually ice the cookies with once they're completely cold. And then from there, you can decorate them as you like. You can put, you know, maybe more nuts on there, you know, powdered sugar, chocolate, shavings, sprinkles, anything you like. That way you're kind of taking a cookie that has a blank canvas and you can make it decorative for anything or any theme that your party is. Or if you're doing these for a specific holiday. All right, guys, so I am back here with our second mix, which is our white cake mix. This one actually calls for more eggs. If you're gonna make it in the cake version, calls for 1 1/4 cup of water, 1/2 cup of oil, vegetable or avocado, and then 5 eggs. That's why I got out so many eggs before, but we're gonna just test the consistency with 2 eggs first with our vegetable oil and see if that's gonna be good for us. I'm just gonna use the same bowl and the same utensils. I'm not worried about a little bit of the white flour on the yellow. I'm sorry, the white cake mix on the yellow cake mix. That doesn't concern me at all. So we're just gonna get this mixed up here. And this one I'm actually going to add some chocolate chips too, just to give a little bit of a different variety. I'm going to blend this up first before I add in my chocolate chips. I can tell with this one already I need another egg. I'm not sure if maybe there's more cake mix in this one. Looking like a real good consistency. I'm going to add in my chocolate chips. About 1/2 cup to 3/4 cup of our chocolate chips. these are ready to get dropped onto our pan. Alrighty friends, so you can just see I'm here with my spatula. And since I've never really made these type of cookies before, I just took the spatula and gently lifted up the cookie to see if it was, finished baking on the underside. And that's how I was determining if it released easy from the pan. That's how I determined that it was done. So here I am just taking my chocolate chip cookie dough, and I'm going to finish filling up this pan here because I don't want to bake it with just it being half full. So these cookies turned out absolutely, phenomenal. Like, I had them for the party, and then I gave the rest for Mark to take them to work the following Monday, and they were so good. Our favorite you'll see coming up here is the yellow cake mix, and then we dip them in the almond bark and the vanilla almond bark, and then I dip them in some toasted slivered almonds. These chocolate chip ones that I'm doing now, I ended up icing the top of them also with the almond bark. And the almond bark, I actually heard about that from my grandma. She always uses it, and you can find that at Aldi's if you have an Aldi's close to you. They have a dark, I think they have a regular like chocolate one, and then they have a vanilla chocolate flavor. And they may have other flavors in other stores as well. Alrighty, so here we are just dishing out some more cookie dough. And I use this 1.5 tablespoon scoop for all the cookies today, and it seems to be the perfect size, honestly. And that's the one I use for all of my baking. Some of the cookies did spread on me a little bit, and I'm not sure if that's because I was working with some of these hot pans, later on in the process, and they weren't cool enough. But like I said, I use this same cookie scoop for everything. But they were all so delicious, and all the guests loved them, so no complaints. So I'm just going to keep cycling through these. You can see on the table behind me, when the cookies come out of the oven, I let them rest for about maybe 2 to 4 minutes, and then I transfer them onto my wire rack, let them cool completely, and then we're going to decorate them. So I found out from my friend that makes these type of cookies all the time that you can really use any box cake that you want to use for that specific flavor. She does a lot of the yellow or the white cake mix, and then she'll make snickerdoodle cookies, or she'll do ones with nuts, chocolate chips, and also just like exploring with maybe chocolate cake and then rolling them in powdered sugar to make them look like one of those broken cookies would be really pretty. And even red velvet cake mix with powdered sugar, or do the icing like what we're going to do today. Anything that would be really fun and pretty and festive. Just kind of let your imagination, take you where it wants. Now these cookies here, the last bit of this batter did not have a lot of chocolate chips in them, so you're going to see me add a few more chocolate chips to them. If these were just going to be plain chocolate chip cookies, I would go back and put a few chocolate chips on each of the top of these cookies. That way when they baked, you could see the chocolate chips nicely. But since we're going to be icing the top of these, that didn't really matter today. Okay friends, so these cookies cook really, really fast. I cooked them for about between 7 and 9 minutes. I just looked for a little bit of brown around the edge and make sure that I can get my metal spatula underneath it to lift it. Then I let it cool for just a little bit, and then I transferred them onto my wire rack back here. And then as they're cool back here, I'll put them on a plate so they can cool completely before we ice them. So that kept me going. Our last 2 trays are in the oven right now. So they probably only have about 4 to 5 more minutes left. We're good to go. We're gonna start getting ready our Buckeye no-bake cookies. This is off of tasty.com, so I'll list this for you. For this recipe, we need a 1/2 cup of unsalted butter, melted, 1.5 cups of peanut butter, 2.5 cups of powdered sugar, and 1 cup of chocolate chips, enough for dipping. That was for the cookies. I do not have powdered sugar right now, so I'm actually gonna blend some up. So I have 2.5 cups of sugar in here. We're gonna blend this up to powder it for our recipe. So I just checked the recipe to see how many of these Buckeyes that it made, and it only makes 6. So I'm actually gonna double it for our party. So if you've never made powdered sugar like this before, I would definitely recommend trying it. I just have a regular white sugar in here. This is a Ninja blender. Don't really use my blender too often. Every once in a while I need it to make maybe pestos or something like that, or a specialty drink. But I figured it would come in handy for this. The only thing that I noticed with doing this is my first time trying to turn sugar into powdered sugar, is it really needs to blend, I think, for a long time. I thought I had it blended enough, but it was kind of like a medium powdery consistency. It wasn't like a fluffy powder consistency like you see in the store. So if you guys have any recommendations on how to do this properly, or maybe I have the wrong blender, that could be it too. But this is a pretty strong blender, so I'm not sure. Maybe I just needed to, let it go for a little longer. But you see me there trying to stir it up a little bit just to kind of, hopefully nothing was just sticking at the bottom. As I take my cookies here out of the oven to cool, I'm just keeping a close eye on it. And then what I'm doing here now is just transferring the cookies that are already cool to a plate. And that way, to make room for the ones that are hot, I'll put the hot ones on the rack. And then once everything is nice and cool, we can decorate. Alrighty, so now we're gonna start our Buckeye cookies. I have a jar of peanut butter here that's about halfway full. This is a large jar, so I'm just gonna go ahead and use the remainder of this. Like I said, I'll link this recipe down below for you. It's off of tasty.com. I use their recipes a lot. They have a lot of good creative things on there. So, and now whenever I was looking at this recipe, I believe it said it only made 6 cookies or 6 little balls of cookies or something like that. And I'm like, well, that's not going to be enough for everyone, So especially because I wanted to deliberately give Mark some to take to work. So I went ahead and doubled this recipe. And I'll tell you what, I don't know how large these people were making their cookies, but we ended up with a ton. So if you just make the original batch for this recipe, I think you'll have a sensible amount. We ended up having quite the load of Buckeye cookies, but everyone loved them. The only downfall, this is a gluten-free cookie, and I am gluten-free, obviously, as you know, if you've been watching for a little while. But these cookies are extremely rich because of all the butter and the peanut butter that's in them. If you wanted to try something different with these and probably do like an almond butter, or I know there's all different types of butters these days. I think there's even a cookie butter I've heard of. That would probably be tasty to do as well. So there's my melted butter going in there. And then I'm just gonna mix these up with my hand mixer. You want this to be nice and smooth. The recipe did not call for a pinch of salt. Anytime a recipe doesn't call for salt, I always add it because it does balance out the sweetness whenever you're making dessert. So here we're going to blend this up till it's nice and smooth, and then I'm going to gradually add in our powdered sugar that we just made there in our blender. And I had pre-measured out the sugar that we needed in that blender, so you'll see me pouring it in. I'm not eyeballing, it's already pre-measured. Alrighty, so you're eventually gonna start to see your cookie dough take on a little bit more of, a thicker consistency. And that's really what we want. That's the purpose of our powdered sugar here, is to help form the cookie dough. And the best way I found for this is after mixing it, and I'll scoop it out with my 1.5 tablespoon scoop again, and then I put them on a cookie sheet with parchment and put them in the freezer. These cookies, because they are on the softer side, we're not baking them and there's no gluten in there. They need all the help they can get from being chilled in the freezer. You can put them in the refrigerator too if you wish, but the freezer was just a little faster for me on this day. And even if you need to make this dough like a day ahead of time, put it in the fridge and then the next day work with it, I think you would have success that way as well. Because once these are chilled and portioned out, then we're going to roll them into balls. So they need to stay together for us, and them being chilled definitely helps that. All of these cookies were really, really fun to make. And I normally don't make a lot of baked goods, as you all know, if you follow my channel. But every once in a while, especially for parties, I have no problem trying new things like this that are easy. I've made tiramisu before, and actually I've been thinking about trying to make that gluten-free, seeing if I could find some gluten-free ladyfingers to do a tiramisu. I do like citrus desserts as well. Anything nice and light and bright. I did want to mention too, burnt almond torte cake is Mark and I's favorite cake. That's the cake we had at our wedding. And if you wanted to take the yellow cake mix recipe that I'm leaving here for you guys, that we put the slivered almonds on top, you'll see that here coming up. If you were to put almond extract in that cake mix for the cookies, oh my gosh, that would be like a mini burnt almond torte cookie. And so easy, really affordable way to bake something that would otherwise take a lot of time to make, if you're making it in the cake form. Okay, friends, so here we are. This is the vanilla almond bark from Aldi's. I want to just tell you guys, my grandma really knew what she was doing when she told me about this. This chocolate melts amazing. It's I melt it in my microwave at 30-second intervals. You can see me just trying to break up the cubes there to help it melt a little easier. And you can do this over a double boiler if you want to. I just kind of wanted to use the microwave. And like I said, this chocolate just melts beautifully. You're going to see here, I'm going to try to melt some of my semi-sweet chocolate chips for the Buckeyes later on. And I'll be honest, the first batch of semi-sweet chocolate was fine, but the second batch I actually burnt accidentally. Alrighty, friends, so I just set up a little station after my cookies are iced. I'm going to place them on a piece of parchment. These are the chocolate chip cookies that we made with the white cake mix, and our vanilla almond bark is all nice and melted now. You could stir it with a whisk or a fork. And right here, I'm just trying to get the flow of how to dip these cookies. I really, this is something that's a little new to me. You can't really see it there because of the glare. I apologize. But what I end up doing is I end up dipping the cookie down into the, may as well call it chocolate. Pushing it down, trying to keep a firm pressure on it all the way around, and then just swooping it a little bit. That way it gets a little bit of a, just a little swoop on top. That way I don't have to try to fix the icing with a knife on every single cookie. So there you can see on that one, it has like a little swirl or whatever you want to call that. So I'm going to start here, like I said, with my chocolate chip cookies. After these chocolate chip cookies are iced on top, they are all ready to go once they harden up and cool down. And these were a lot of fun. Like, this was so much fun. Like I said, the chocolate melted nice. It made these cookies look so expensive. Like I went to an expensive bakery, and the taste was just phenomenal. And I think with them being the cake mix, it just elevated the cookie to a different level. It almost tasted like you were eating a chocolate chip cake that was iced. It was really cool. I did sample a little bit of each cookie, even though I can't really eat too much gluten. But just, I had to know for myself if it was good or not. Now here what I'm doing is I have some slivered almonds in a baking dish, and I'm toasting them at 350. And just every, about 4 minutes or so, 3 to 4 minutes, I'm checking on them, shaking them, and making sure that they're toasting properly. And those are going to be for our other cookies. So here I'm just going to ice the rest of my chocolate chip cookies here, get them on my parchment, and let them cool. I do want to mention just giving these chocolate chip cookies a little bit of icing on top. I know it's, a little bit extra and whatnot, but it really just kind of elevated the traditional chocolate chip cookie too. So I was just trying to be creative with what I had on hand. And so I encourage you guys to do that too. Let me know if you've ever made cookies out of box cake mix. And if you're not a fan of using box cake or, prepackaged food or whatnot, you can always just make your own cake from scratch and, just make the consistency like what we did, not too runny or anything like that. And then you could make this same recipe from scratch from your own cake mix. And I think this would be really tasty. You could do this all different ways. You could make like a nice springtime cookie with, either a spring or a fall time cookie with like dried fruit, if you like those kind of things, or, nuts. And like we mentioned before, you could really just let your imagination run wild here. I brought our almonds here out of the oven, and I'm heating up our vanilla almond bark there for 30 more seconds in the microwave. And then just preparing the next parchment for our almond cookies. I'm calling them almond cookies even though they're not flavored almond, but these ones, like I said, were our favorite, absolute favorite. If you love almond, or even if you're not, maybe crazy about it, if you just leave off the almond extract, if you're not crazy about it, but the little almond slivers on top were so tasty. And then here you can see I'm doing the dip the cookie, the swoop, and then I'm just putting the cookie right in, just dipping them into the shaved almonds there. Those shaved almonds are from Sam's Club. I know, big surprise, right? If you watch the channel, you know I get a Sam's Club order once a month. That's how I shop. That's how I keep myself in budget. It really works out. But these almonds came in, I almost want to say maybe a 3-pound bag. They were actually fairly reasonably priced. So if you have to do any baking, or if you want this for oatmeal or any other thing that you're trying to do, they have a decent price over there. These cookies were just so beautiful. And, you know, with little effort, like this really doesn't take that much effort. It didn't take me long to even make these cookies in the first place. And doing the little bit of decorative touch that we're doing here is really not that hard. By the way, as a side note, I'm actually still in a pantry challenge, so making these cookies actually helped me, get a few more things out of my pantry, which I was grateful for. Let me know if you all are still in a pantry challenge, or if you did that this year, and how it's going for you. I'm still trying to do my best to use everything and rotate through my stock and my pantry and my freezers. It's always a good time to do it before, we start growing again and getting a lot of things in the garden. So I just wanted to throw that out there for you guys. Let me know how it's going for you, and if you've started your seeds yet for this 2024 season coming up, for the growing season. And if you guys have any recommendations on good fertilizers or compost, please let me know down below. I'm going to be checking that out here very soon. I know Becky at Acre Homestead loves to use Vermont compost, and I think she gets it on Amazon, so I think I'll check that out. Okay, friends, so we are now working with the semi-sweet chocolate chips that are melted. You can see there in my red bowl. I have our Buckeyes, and I have the white chocolate still melted in our green bowl. So what we're going to do is I'm going to cover these Buckeyes in both semi-sweet and the almond bark, the vanilla almond bark. Now, I try to use a toothpick for this because that's what the directions actually called for, was to stab the Buckeye with a toothpick so that you wouldn't have to get your fingers all dirty. And in theory, it sounds good, but obviously you see here I just end up using 2 forks and just kind of, working that chocolate up around the sides that way. And then I'm just putting it on my parchment there to let it harden up for us. So that's what I'm doing here with all of these. And then I'm just gonna do a tray of the semi-sweet chocolate and a tray of the white chocolate until all of my chocolate is gone. Like I said, these were super tasty. They were just really, really rich. So this is probably like a 2-bite cookie, if you call it a cookie. Like I said, I'm not well versed on that. And as I'm heating it up, I'm only heating it up in 30-second intervals, and sometimes only 15-second intervals, but I did end up scorching it a little bit, which was my fault. I think the bowl just got too hot for it, even though the timing on it was still very mild. So I'm just going to continue to dip our cookies in here with my 2 forks. And I thought it would be best to just keep the semi-sweet chocolate on one tray and the white chocolate on a completely different tray, just in case there was any crossover from the colors. But you can really do anything with these. You could actually take your fork and drizzle over top of these Buckeyes. I think that would look really pretty. That way maybe you don't have to be so precise about trying to get the chocolate all around the bottom and the sides. If you're not too detail oriented, you could do that, like a little drizzle on top. You could do a drizzle on top with both colors of chocolate. That would really be pretty too. And just a little heads up, sorry if you can hear my canner in the background. I'm actually filming a new video for you all, so stay tuned for that. That's going to be on canning beef broth. So we were canning beef broth today from the bones from our cow that we just purchased, the half a cow that we just purchased. So can't get any better than that. We canned 6 quarts today, so that'll actually see me through for a while. So yeah, stay tuned for that one, guys. And I have a few other videos, long form videos coming out for you, as well as some shorts. So we're just going to continue to work here. I have a ton of these cookies. Like I said, I did scorch my semi-sweet chocolate here. I know I'll mention it again because I did have to throw that batch out, and then I just finished out everything with whatever I had left in the vanilla. So here I'm just using 2 clean forks and dipping the Buckeyes in the white chocolate here, just the same way as we did the other chocolate. I would definitely recommend the almond bark chocolate. Like I said, it melted beautifully, it reheated great. I didn't scorch this one like I did the other one. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it. And the prices was very comparable, if not a little bit cheaper at the time I purchased this. It'd be really good to do these with like chocolate covered pretzels too. That was one of the things I was going to do here, but I purposefully wanted to use the things that I had on hand currently so that I could rotate my stock like I had mentioned previously. So after we get all of these Buckeyes coated, we're going to put these trays back into the freezer to get them nice and hardened. And then once they're nice and hardened, we can take them out and put them, you can store them any way you really need to. I just put them in Ziploc bags, and then I just kept them in the refrigerator until the party, or you can put them even in the freezer till when you need them, whatever suits your needs at that point. Actually, for the party, I remember putting them back in the freezer because it was a couple days out. And then after the party, I just left them in the refrigerator, and then Mark took the rest to work. Alrighty guys, so here are all of our cookies. They look so beautiful, and I'm so proud of us for making these. And they looked gorgeous on the trays as well. So these ones here are the white cake mix with the chocolate chips and the vanilla almond bark on top. And that almond bark is so good. It tastes like just a vanilla icing or a white chocolate. This is what I'm showing you here. This is what it comes in Aldi's. When you shop at Aldi's, a 24-ounce package. I used 1.5 of those for today. Now this one is our yellow cake mix with the slivered almonds and the almond bark on top. We have our Buckeyes, the peanut butter in the middle, and we have semi-sweet chocolate and the vanilla almond bark on some of those as well. So yeah, these were not chilled yet at this stage. I was just laying everything out to show you, and then I chilled these. And then after they were chilled and completely hardened, I put them in my Ziploc bags, and you can keep them in the freezer or the refrigerator for whenever you need them, but they'll last quite a while in the freezer. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I really don't take it for granted that you're here with me And I just really love being with you, and I hope that I will see you again very, very soon on the next one. And please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you guys.